Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And welcome back to the Operation Hill 100 Hearts channel where we do what? Focus on healing, humor, and hot motherfucking topics. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you hit the thumbs up on this motherfucking video and let's get into this with your nosy ass. Dear Deja, my wife and I are both in our 40s. We have been together over a decade, and for the last 4 years, we've been trying to have a baby. My wife more than me. When we were told that there could be some complications with her giving birth, I suggested adopting. That was a hard no for her as she was against it. She was against all of my suggestions: adoption, surrogacy, and just plain old settling for being the rich auntie and uncle. So I went along with her persistence to get pregnant as a loving, supportive husband, and finally it happened. We were both excited and happy to finally have our little one on the way to complete our family. My wife had what I called a very careful pregnancy. There was an excessive amount of doctor's appointments, a lot of restrictions placed on my wife during pregnancy, including bed rest the last 90 days. She didn't care. She was so happy about finally reaching this point in her life and in our marriage. Anyway, my wife went into labor 12 days before her actual due date and was in labor for 16 hours before the complications began. And according to the doctor, she needed emergency surgery. I was also asked that if the surgical team meets a crossroad and it becomes a situation where they have to choose between baby or mom, then I would have to make the decision. Of course, I chose my wife. We have more children. We can have more children, but I don't get another her. Something took place during surgery. I don't want to go into too much detail out of respect for my wife, but the baby ended up not making it. My wife and I was devastated, but I was happy to know that she was okay. As we returned home, the months to follow have been hard. My wife's emotions have been up and down like crazy, and now I think they have turned into hate towards me, seeing as though I chose her over the baby. Last week, she came out and told me I did it purposely because I never wanted the baby in the first place and because I'm selfish and I knew that she couldn't live without that baby. I'm afraid that by making what I feel was the best decision for our marriage, I may have ruined us in the process. I love my wife, but I'm afraid we've reached a point of no return. Please help. Thank you in advance. Signed, I don't know if I saved her life and it changed our lives. Okay, now let me take a sip of my drink. Water, per usual. Wow. Oh, Lord have mercy. First off, as always, let me send my condolences. Let me send my condolences to you and your wife because this is an extremely traumatic situation. The loss of a child is an extremely traumatic situation. The loss of a fetus is an extremely traumatic situation. Um, just a little backstory. I went into detail on my IG, which kind of annoys me that I did it on IG because there's no way to get the video off of IG transferred to YouTube, which I would love to because A, I don't want to tell the story again, and B, I feel like the way I shared on that IG video was very transparent, was very raw, was very real, and I'd rather you guys get that reality than me having to rehash the story and trying to grow through that again, right? But I did share that in 2019 I had a miscarriage. That was my first and only, and I was mortified and horrified. I do still have some trauma surrounding the miscarriage, right? Because number one, physically and mentally, it takes an extremely huge toll on you. It takes an extremely huge toll on you. It takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your psyche. It takes a toll on your emotions for a few things, right? So in my case, I did and I didn't want the baby, right? I'll start with the did it. I didn't want the baby only because at the time I was not in the best financial situation. My boyfriend wasn't in the best financial situation, so it made no sense for us to bring a baby into the world. But the other part of it was number one on the list, everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that. And number two on the list, I'm in love with the person that I conceived the baby with. So what other feeling would you have seeing as though you and the person you're in love with made a love child, right? So for that part of it, it was like, I mean, this is not the best time, but it's a huge blessing. So I wanted to move forward with it, right? Now, what happens is once you get the mindset of I want to move forward and, you know, have a child and become a parent, everything around, as a woman, I can't speak for men, everything around you really and truly nurtures those thoughts and feelings, right? So, like, case in point, you'll start to see baby stuff everywhere, and you'll be, when you see babies in the tree, you want to stop them and goo goo gaga, and it's just something about now taking on the responsibility of becoming a parent and having a baby that makes you feel so overwhelmed with love and gratitude, and it's just a whole lot. And I'm saying all of this, and the furthest I've ever got in a pregnancy was 16 weeks, right? And that was when I was much younger. But anywho, I'm just saying that to say you're not the same person. You're not the same person once you come to terms with you're having a baby, right? And I could imagine once you actually have the baby, you're not the same person. But in any event, I'm just speaking about, the pregnancy, because that's what happened here, right? So once your wife came to the conclusion that, well, I think it's a little bit even more intense for your wife because she had already settled on those thoughts before she even got pregnant. Because as you said, she was very adamant about, listen, we're doing this, this is happening, we're going to be parents. So if that's the case, she already was thinking about, listen, I'm going to be a mom. Come hell or high water, I'm going to be a mom, right? So now to actually say that and then to actually have that happen, I could imagine that she was filled with so many emotions and so much gratitude to know that everything I hoped and I prayed for finally came into fruition, right? On top of that, it came into fruition with the love of my life, right? So these are things that already was, her mental was already wrapped around anyway, right? Then on top of that, after all that took place, now, okay, I'm going to be a mom. This thing is really happening. I prayed and it's here. You have to also keep in mind what takes place during the pregnancy, which is now the baby growing inside the mom and the mom connecting with the baby. To my understanding, that is the most crucial part of being a mom, because the feelings, the thoughts, the emotions, the attachment, all of that takes place when the baby is still in the belly. So the kicking and the nurturing and the, you know what I'm saying, the protection and everything that you want to do for that baby that you haven't even met yet, all because this is the greatest thing that ever happened to you, right? So from then, from your wife saying that this was going to happen to her actually making it happen to now experiencing it, she is in this thing full throttle with everything that she has, just as much as I imagine she's in your marriage, right? So that you think about it on your terms, that's significant, that's important, right? So now to have gone full term during the pregnancy, you said that they need to stop with this fucking horn out here. You said that she went into labor 9 days before her due date. So that means you guys probably had a baby shower. You probably did all of the things that folks do when they're expecting a baby. You know how overwhelming that is, with feelings and emotions that, oh my God, this thing is really about to happen. To now go in labor and have it not happen. Now, we as people, we start businesses, we apply to jobs, we go into sports, we start workout regimens, we do all of these things, right? And most times when we go into it confident, like, oh, this is going to work out. This is going to happen for me, right? And if it's something that you really feel adamant about, when it doesn't happen, what is that feeling? What is that feeling? That feeling is like, oh my God, I can't believe that this didn't work out. And then it's an overwhelming feeling of disappointment. Sometimes it can bring you to tears, depending on how much you wanted it, right? So imagine how that feels, and that's just about a business, a job, a fitness lifestyle. Imagine how that feels when it's about your child. It's about the person that you have been growing inside you for the last 8-9 months, and you cannot wait to meet because you're already attached to and in love with, and not being able to meet that person. That has to be a level of trauma that is unmatched and unimaginable. Unmatched and unimaginable. And as I said before, just thinking about, she already was dead set on being a parent before she even got pregnant. So this has been a goal of hers for forever. So to actually feel like you're at the freaking goal post, you're about to pass the line, you're about to win the race, to now find out that there's nothing at the finish line, I could imagine that broke her in ways that, again, I'll give my own personal story. Once I had wrapped my mind around, okay, we're gonna do this thing, right? And again, my boyfriend is like, okay, yeah, I don't, he has his own children beforehand, so I don't think he had many unsettling nerves about it. So he was like, okay, girl, just let me know what you want to do, pretty much, right? And now when I wrap my mind around it, now I'm thinking about names for the baby. I'm thinking about where am I going to deliver. I'm thinking about where we're moving to because we need a bigger place. I'm thinking about where this kid is going to go to school. I'm thinking about what I'm having. I'm now in the realm of like, oh my God, I'm going to be a mom, right? And when I went to my doctor's appointment, and it was so crazy that when I went this time, my boyfriend couldn't make that visit. And I didn't mind going alone because it was like you're just going to check on the baby. And when I went to go check on the baby, there was no heartbeat. And it was like, I'm sorry, what did you say? So imagine carrying a baby full term, going through surgery, thinking you're in labor, and then now to have the hospital tell you there is no baby. What do you mean there is no baby? So, hubby, I'm just trying to give you some background information because I think right now your main focus and your main concern is your marriage, right? Your main focus and your main concern is your wife, right? And of course that would be that's what's left, your wife and your marriage. But for her, she's still stuck in I don't have my fucking baby. So, fuck this marriage, fuck me being a wife, and fuck everything else that's going on because right now I went somewhere anticipating that I would have something and I did not return with it when I just knew that this was it. So, I want you to think about all of that because that's heavy. That's heavy. That could be considered, I'm not going to lie, um uh, I honestly, if I'm being honest, it could be like temporary insanity. It could be like temporary insanity because you're outside of yourself filled with emotions. I'm pretty sure the hormones are up and down since you were just like it's just a lot that comes with that, right? So even if I think she wanted to control some of the things that came out of her mouth or some of the things that she thought or some of the things that she's feeling, I don't even think she's capable of doing so because she's so far gone about the reality of this situation. I don't have my fucking baby. And I feel like I'm about to get emotional. Like that really, 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 really makes me sad for her. Really makes me sad for her because I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. Right? So again, I want to keep you guys uplifted in prayer. I pray that God will wrap his loving arms around you guys, your marriage and everything else because I can't imagine, right? But we can't cry on dear teacher. Anywho, so I think number one right now, I know you lost a child as well, Dad, so I'm not trying to take away from your loss, right? But I know, like you said, more of your concern is your wife and trying to make sure she's okay. So since we're speaking about her, the first thing that I would have to say to you if we were in a healing heart session is right now, the only thing we have to think about is grace. We have to think about grace because I could imagine that there could be, number one, uh, uh, a stretch of time where she's going to need it. And I also could imagine that she's going to need an immense level of it. Because you know how like when somebody is grieving about something and they curse you out, right? And you be like, okay, you going through something, I get it. But then they curse you out again and you like, oh, no, I'm not no motherfucking punching bag, so I'm done with your ass, right? That can happen. Right now, as a husband, that can't happen. That can't happen. And that can't happen because this grieving is more intense than anything she's ever felt, I could imagine. So she is outside of herself literally at the moment. Do I think that she wants to curse her husband out? No, but I also think that she also didn't want to leave the hospital without her baby. So for her, it's very, very mind-boggling, and it's very, very hard and difficult for her to be able to be like, oh, okay, that just happened. You know what? I got to get up on a good foot. I got to get it together. I'll be okay. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And what you have to understand is you're her first line. You're who she's there with every day. Who else would this be getting taken out on? She's not gonna call up to her job and start arguing with the people there, you know? So because you live with her and you're who she sees all the time firsthand, then you are gonna be the person feeling these blows as they come, right? And I think that they are going to come because she is grieving on a level that's unimaginable, that probably maybe you and I couldn't understand because we've never carried a baby full term. And I think because of that, some grace has to be extended. Now, this is what I will say about extending the grace. You need to partner up with someone to assist you with that. So, sweetie, I think you need to get your wife some professional help. I think you need to get your wife some professional help because I'm keeping in mind that you are human as well, you know, and everybody has their limits and their breaking points. And if you're writing this letter, you're probably at that point or almost to that point. And I don't, of course, want you to give up on your marriage. And I definitely, more importantly, don't want you to give up on your wife when she's going through one of the hardest times in her life. So on top of giving her grace, you need to now put someone else in a group chat that could assist your wife with all of her feelings and emotions so she could be able to move forward through this process correctly and not possibly cause you guys to go through divorce because she's grieving so hard that she can't even maintain her marriage. Right, so my first suggestion would be to get her some professional help. That's number one on the list, right? I know a therapist, you know. I could definitely drop the information in the description box here for you. I could email it back to you to the email address you sent your letter from, but she needs some professional help because the level of coping mechanisms that she needs to come up with, I don't know if you're equipped to give her that, and she needs that. She literally needs that. Okay, so number one, we need to enter a professional, medical professional into the group chat, right? That's number one on top of the grace, right? Number two on the list is you might want to tag in some family. You might want to tag in some family because I know for me, you know, when you have a spouse and you kind of can't reach them, you kind of can't get to them, you kind of feel like, I don't really know how to land a plane here. I know for me, I try to reach out to a close relative and I try to say, hey, like, can you assist me? Because I know that you and so are close and I really, really want to help them, but I don't know if I'm equipped to do it alone. So can you help me? So I would suggest if she still has her parents alive, maybe looping them in. If there's a sibling or siblings that she's very close to, maybe looping them in. If there is a best friend, maybe looping him or her in. Because at this moment, you know, you don't want to try to go at this alone, but you also don't want to abandon your wife, right? So you have to really, really try to find all of the resources to kind of pull folks in to kind of help lift your wife up, right? I want you to also keep in mind that this takes time. There is no time limit on how long folks grieve. There is no proper way to grieve. You know what I'm saying? So I think you have to keep in mind that, you know, for you, it could be, listen, this happened 6 months ago. Life is still going on. You have to get up and get with real life. But for her, it could also be replaying in her mind like this was 6 minutes ago. You know, grief is heavy, grief is nasty, grief is grueling, grief is difficult. I have seen grief silently unalive people. If I'm being honest, I've seen people grieve so hard that eventually they inadvertently committed suicide. I've seen it. I've seen it. You know, they don't want to take care of their health. You know, it's just certain things that they just can't do because they're still in pain behind the loss. Right? So I think you have to also keep in mind, which I'm pretty sure the medical professional will tell you, that things take time and this will take time. Right? I think that you already have this in your mind, but I also want to remind you, right, to center yourself on never giving up, right? Marriage is important. Marriage is important. I know we live in a day and age where folks kind of forgot about that, but I just want to always serve as a reminder that marriage is important. Number one on the list, if you thought highly enough of a person to take their hand in marriage and to begin a life journey with them, then that means you feel a level of emotion and care for that person that you never felt for anybody else, right? I would assume, right? So because of that, you always want that person to know that they're insulated, that they're protected, that they're covered, and that most of all, you're not going to give up on them. So I think you need to recenter yourself and focus and shift your mind into going back into, this is my wife and I can never give up on her. Because I know it's easier said than done when you're getting insults hurled at you, to think about, oh, I'm never giving up. No, I'm going to choke the shot this bitch and get the fuck out of here, right? But at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind this is my wife. This is my wife. And if she's growing through it, we growing through it together. That's what you guys came together for, to weather the storms. You hear what they say in your vows of sickness and in health, the rich and the poor. You know what I'm saying? So therefore you have to make sure that you keep in mind a mindset of no matter what, right? No matter what, I'm going to protect her. No matter what, I'm going to be here. No matter what, I'm going to have her back. But in the process of no matter what and never giving up, I want you to get the support that you need, which is why I said, please try to tag in some family members, and more importantly, if nobody else, a medical professional that can assist you on the way this looks and how to get it done. I want to also say this to you, hubby, and I know you're going to be like, but what did I do? It's not necessarily what did you do, but I think you need to get some therapy for yourself. And I know it's like, bitch, I'm fine. I'm trying to keep this all together. No. You need some therapy because, number one, what you just said, I'm here trying to support someone that's grieving, but I think you also forgot that you may be grieving too. You heard what you said in your letter. You got on board with your wife to be loving and supportive. But I could almost imagine, I'm almost sure that at some point you grew some excitement and some anticipation for the birth of your baby as well. So you could be silently grieving as well. And you could be pretty much burying that grief because you're trying to help your wife deal with hers. So I think that she needs a medical professional, and I think separately you need one as well. Now, eventually, I do believe y'all could come together and do the counseling together, but right now, I think individually might be a little better, only because let's just say that you do have some deep feelings that you're burying. You will kind of be a little apprehensive about sharing them in front of your wife because you're so busy trying to uplift her. So you don't want to put nothing heavy on her, so you won't say what you really feel. And the therapist needs to know what you really feel in order for them to help you get through it. So that's why I suggest that you do it separately at first, right? I also suggest you do it separately at first because let's just say she may have some things that she wants to say in regards to you, which sounds like she said some of it already, but she may have some more things that she wants to say in regards to you, and they can be offensive, and we don't want this therapy session to go left because now you're upset and offended by some of the things she has said, but she has to have the capacity and the room and the stage has to be set for her to share her genuine feelings so she can work through them. Okay? So, outside of getting help from family and friends, outside of the medical professional, I would love for you to come for your Operation Heal 100 Heart sessions. Because although I'm not a medical professional, I do think that I'm skilled in trauma-centered care, and I'm actually certified in it. And I want to be able to assist you with growing through some of this stuff as well. Because first of all, I do not want you guys' marriage to end. Second of all, I do not want you guys to stay in this bad place regarding what took place. Because just like I said in my video when I recorded about my miscarriage, God's delay is not God's denial. That's one thing I'm very, very adamant and sure about. God's delay is not God's denial. So even though she didn't carry the baby full term, even though she conceived the baby but didn't actually have the baby, that doesn't mean that's not in the cards for you guys in the future. But you have to get through this part as well. And you have to get through it first before we can get to the future. Right? But you keep in mind that God's delay is not God's denial, and you don't know what the future has in store, but you want to show up there healed and whole and ready for everything that God has for y'all individually and also has for your marriage as a couple. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this was heavy. This was heavy. It made me emotional, but I'm happy that you wrote. I'm happy that God placed it in your heart to trust me with this. I'm praying that I do get a chance to see you so we can continue with the Operation Heal 100 Heart sessions. And I'm hoping you'll take some of what I said into consideration and put it in place. In any event, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Dear DJ is back in the motherfucker biz not eat. Y'all make sure y'all enjoy y'all day.